Testing one, two, three. Test, test, test. Camera test one. He usually brings her on.
Calling the superintendent, please. Call this December 12th, 2022 meeting of the Rockingham County School Board to order. Thank you all for being here this evening on a rather crisp evening. I thought on the way out it felt colder than the temperature looked, but we're glad to have all of you here for this December meeting. The first item of business that we have is to approve tonight's agenda, and I will entertain a motion pertaining to that if it be the board's desire.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Any additions or amendments to tonight's agenda? Hearing of none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is 5-0. I would ask now for all who are able to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, if you could join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Next, we will move to public comments, and we will have the ordinary procedure rules in place. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. I will gavel when there are 30 seconds left, one time, and then twice at the end of the 3 minutes. We have Michael Stemple.
Thank you, Board, Dr. Scheichel, for the opportunity to speak today. I would like to address the recent discussion of RCPS and its connection to the Virginia Inquiry Collaborative and C3 teachers. First of all, I'd like to demystify a few terms and address some allegations made by a school board member. The C3 and C3 teachers simply stands for college, career, civic life. There was a concern about students becoming civically engaged. This simply means encouraging students to be active in their communities. Think of the kind of community engagement you see with the Boys and Girl Scouts. Another complaint was that some of the material presented is Marxist because it uses oppressed, oppressor language. I'll just say this: the Bible is full of oppressed, oppressor language, and it predates Karl Marx by about 1,500 to 2,000 years, depending on the text. The school board member posted concerns about the mention of white supremacy in some of the email conversations with participants of the AIC. He also posted a slide that discussed whiteness as a social construct. Let's talk about that. In 1928, Delegate James H. Prince of Richmond redefined what it meant to be non-white in Virginia in what became known as the one-drop rule. So you see, who was considered white was and is subjective, and it changes over time. Laws like these were referred to as racial purity laws and were studied by Nazi lawyers who were creating laws to discriminate against the Jewish population in Germany in the 1930s. You can see the subjective nature of whiteness in the school board minutes of this county in April of 1951. This is a direct quote from the minutes. Mr. Henry C. Clark, an attorney for several citizens from the Kieseltown community, appeared before the board and asked the board to make an investigation of the report that the Ettinger child is part colored and should not be permitted to attend the white school. The board authorized Superintendent Wilbur S. Pence to investigate the complaint of these citizens from the Kieseltown community. So you see there, whiteness is subjective. Why do we need to talk about white supremacy? We need to talk about it because it was openly discussed in the Daily News Record as an important topic for white Virginia voters in the early part of the 20th century. In the Daily News Record, October 23rd, 1924, Republican congressional candidate J.H. Rubush of Dayton said the following when asked if he supported white supremacy. On the proposition of white supremacy, I want to say that the colored man should have every protection and right due him. I feel that many times he has been denied that protection, and I stand firmly on the proposition that we, as his superiors, have not in many cases done our duty by him. To win as a Republican in a state dominated by Southern Democrats, you had to show your allegiance to white supremacy. Just 3 years prior, Republican candidate for governor Henry Anderson had declared the Republican Party of Virginia a white man's party. And finally, there's a claim that some of the material in the VIC is included concepts rooted in critical race theory. This is nothing more than a tactic to eliminate all discussions of race and racism. As I've pointed out, whiteness as a social construct is rooted in historical fact. Openly affirming white supremacy was an important component of Virginia politicians' platform in the 20th century. Let's not whitewash history. This is a painting entitled Critical Race Theory. You can see the person whitewashing Harriet Tubman and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. It's not white.
Melissa Runyon. Okay, thank you. Paula Harold.
I am a guardian of a third grader. Several weeks ago, we were sent pieces of paper to give permission for our children with Christmas decorations up in the corner to attend a musical event. All parents would have assumed, I don't know how many third graders, I estimate 450 in Rockingham County, would have assumed that that was a Christmas holiday special fall musical. Our children were bused to the Forbes Center. Have any of you attended the Forbes Center? You know the political thing that is said to the children that are 7 years old when that starts about white racism, white people making slavery in this country, in this valley, annihilating Native Americans, of white people looking down on LGBT communities, white people being racist and white supremacist. That comes on the loudspeaker for 7 and 8 year olds. During this performance, the first part of it, the dancers twerked in front of these 7 and 8 year olds that the school had subjected them to. At the end of this, the second part of this performance, they constantly pushed one girl of color down, submissive, keeping her in the corner. And these are 7 and 8 year olds that came to see a cheerful fall, holiday, whatever you want to have considered it, that parents were, you know, the permission slip had Holly in the corners. What would you have thought you were sending your child to? In the end of it, as they pushed this girl down in the corner, you know, being submissive, she was not white. At the end of this, they stood at the very edge of this stage and yelled at our children, 450 third grade children, I will not shut up, I will not be quiet, I will not lower my voice. They screamed at these children. That's what the school system subjected our children to last week. On the note that it gave you permission for your child to go, it said nothing about this. It implied holiday. That's what it implied. It is against the law in the state of Virginia without parental permission to subject your children to racism statements, LGBT things, twerking, and yelling at our children. I am a member of a biracial family, multicultural, and I am raising a traumatized 8-year-old that's a special needs child that had a panic attack in public in front of his friends because he was yelled at. That's what we subjected our children to last week. I called the school today and talked to the social worker that watches over my grandson. May I continue to speak, please? Sure. And the principal, she went straight to the principal. No one within the school system even knows who put this in place for our 7 and 8 year olds to go and be called racial. And the children came in and they were happy and cheerful. They were going to see a musical performance. They were slump-shouldered and slouching in their seats at the end of this performance. I would like to know who was responsible for subjecting our children to twerking and racial slurs. Unbeknownst to parents, I think that this school system owes every third grade parent an acknowledgement as to what their child was seeing. And on this paper, it said parents couldn't go because there weren't tickets available. Explain that to me. For my grandson, who suffers from PTSD and is biracial, was subjected to that. I would like to know who in the school system sent our third graders to see such a thing, to be subjected to that language, to be told that his grandmother is racist, white supremacist. I want to know who did it. Because the principal at John Whalen was totally unfamiliar that that's what she was sending these children into. Twerking. When these children go home and repeat this, and the parents aren't ready to deal with this yet, you put them in a place they don't need to be. My grandson does not understand why his grandmother is white and he's not. I would like to know who programmed this, who put my grandchild in that place, along with 450 other parents that don't know what their children were subjected to.
Right. I'm not familiar with the program, ma'am. I don't know.
Neither was the principal at John Whalen Elementary. Had no idea this is what was going to happen.
You did contact the school today, I believe.
I did.
Is that correct?
Along with the social worker, and I have no problems with going to an ombudsman or anyone else in the governor's education system.
Right. So I appreciate you bringing it to the attention of the school. Right. That's first, because
these parents have no concept of what their kids were. I mean, when they go home and they twerk in front of their parents, where did they learn that?
Right. So our elementary schools.
I understand that there's an outside person who does this.
So Right, so Rockingham County Schools, Harrisonburg City Schools, and I believe a number of other school divisions partner with an organization called Any Given
I
Child,
understand that.
right? And Any Given Child, the purpose of it is that art experiences are made possible for students who don't normally have these opportunities. And so because you contacted the school, the first thing we do is when a complaint comes in is we investigate it. And so what I can tell you is we've asked James Madison University, because it's their theater program that not the theater, that dance program. I know, and I really am sorry that it was your grandson.
He is my grandson, special need PTSD.
Right, so I'm sorry that your grandson experienced the performance that way.
This.
Now, what we've asked JMU for is a listing of the dance pieces that were performed and what the content was. We've also reached out to the other third grade teachers.
Yes.
And so, again, at this point, it's—
In Rockingham County.
Absolutely,
and are you
in our
notifying
schools,
the parents
yes.
that they were subjected to this?
So I have to get the information first, right? So that we know what happened at the performance. And so again, just like any investigation.
And you understand
we're
what
getting,
was over the intercom about white supremacists, white racists, LGBT community.
We're getting the information that we need to understand how, because again, Any Given Child's organization, so they partner with, in this case, with the JMU Dance Department. And so what parents were told and what our schools were told is that the dance department will put on a performance that contains two pieces from their normal performance for third graders. So I don't have any additional information at this point because I wasn't at that performance. And but I will, again, we've asked the schools to speak to the teachers to see how what their view of it was, what the children said. And we also asked JMU for all the information related to it. So at this point, I don't have anything to tell you because, again, you told the school about it today. And so that's the investigation of that. It's just beginning. I
understand why the teachers haven't stepped forward and acknowledged to the parents what was in that program.
And that's all I can tell you at this point. We're asking for the information. And when we have all of it, then, we'll certainly take a look at it.
And I don't have a problem with taking further steps.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Harrell.
You're welcome.
This concludes our
Mr. Chairman,
public comments.
Mr. Chairman.
We'll move to school board highlights, and
Mr.
I'll
Chairman.
begin with Mr. Falk.
Mr. Chairman, wait a second. Could we
Dr.
have the
McWilton.
gentleman in the, excuse, Mr. Chairman?
I'm coming that way, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. McWilkin?
My first highlight is about the tree planting that occurred, I think on Friday, last Friday, in honor of Larry Huffman, who was the principal who opened Lacey Spring Elementary School. He opened Plains Elementary School, but he opened Lacey Spring Elementary School, and there was a tree planted in his honor. Were you there, Miss?
I didn't make it.
Neither did I, but I do want to acknowledge it because Larry Huffman has given a long time to Rockingham County Public Schools as a principal, as an administrator and teacher, and I thought the recognition for him was warranted, and we're grateful that they did this. This is at Lacey Spring. The second on my agenda highlight is that Rob Lovell, who's the girls basketball coach at Turner Ashby High School, celebrated his 500th win. So we have a remembrance and a congratulations. And my last highlight has to do with the fact that this season, many of our schools, I would say all of our schools, have some special program, some holiday program. And I would like to encourage anybody who would like to come and see the programs, just call the schools to find out whether it's a concert or it's a play or it's a production of some kind. I know that the students would appreciate your being in the audience. And since this is our last meeting before the holiday, I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday.
Thank you. Ms. Lohr?
Thank you. No, I was unable to make it to the tree planting. I apologize. My real job was keeping me busy. It's lambing season, so I'm getting to cuddle little lamb, so it's great. But I did make it to the gymnasium dedication for Larry S. Pence. That was wonderful, and I thank the board for supporting that. It was a great occasion. It was wonderful to see. I think they had 3 folks there that have facilities at TA named after them. So it was really great to see these pillars of the community honored in such a way. And then, yes, we have lots of holiday festivities coming up, and I know there's that snow, there's weather winter in the forecast, and I would ask you all to pray that that goes away and that we can please have school on Friday, because like I said, I'm lambing, so I haven't had time to decorate my own house, but I'm going to Lacey Spring and we're going to decorate that whole area, and we're going to have blow-ups and all sorts of cool things for the kids to see, and that's scheduled for Friday. So please pray for no snow, and please, I would like to ask the superintendent to not cancel school that day. And he is not listening to me whatsoever. And then also, if you have a chance, come on by and drive through Lacey Springs Elementary School and enjoy some of the holiday festivities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross.
First of all, I want to say to Ms. Harold, I know she left, but that is very disturbing. And we will get to the bottom of that and try to find out what exactly was done, what was said, what went on there at the Forbes Center, and also look into our future endeavors in taking 3rd graders there to be subjected to things like that. The second thing I wanted to say just a second ago is that we got 2 grown men on the back row, one part of the community dialogue group that speaks at every single board meeting and goes against really our policies in which we ask the public that they not speak at every single board meeting, which is fine. But when other people are told they can't be on a community dialogue group because they can't get along with others, I think it's pretty immature when a grandmother who's raising a special need child comes in and brings something like she did tonight, and 2 grown men on the back row are sitting there holding up signs while she talks. Very disrespectful and very much uncalled for, and one of them sits on the community dialogue group. Besides that, I'd like to say Merry Christmas to all our teachers at Rockingham County Public Schools. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you've been through in the last couple of years. I hope that you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and that you enjoy your time with your loved ones and your families as you get a few weeks off at this time of year. We're thinking about you. We're praying for you. And we thank you to all of our teachers for everything you do for Rockingham County Public Schools. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Scheichel.
Thank you. Again, the tree dedication for Larry Huffman was well attended. Dr. Alderfer was there. He joined me, and then we had speakers, including Susan Huffman, and then also former students of Larry's, former colleagues, other principals who've worked with him, and it was a really nice event. Also, the Pleasant Valley Winter Showcase. I only had the chance to see the video, but it was an amazing performance by the students that Becky Ford sent us a video of. And then we also had the first FFA gala last week. It was a black tie event that raised in one evening more than $100,000 for the FFA Foundation. It was pretty amazing to see all the blue jackets and all the people that are so connected to our ag community and also, again, raising significant amounts of money. So this was a statewide event. It wasn't $100,000 for the Rockingham County FFA, but it was pretty amazing to be there and to have the conversations with all our ag leaders in the community. Thank you.
I would just like to restate that the comments from the public section of our board meeting is oftentimes becomes one of the most difficult because they are comments from the public, and it's not designed to be an interaction and exchange between the board. We will often do, as the superintendent did tonight, and as Mr. Cross has done, let speakers know that we intend to continue an investigation and look into things. And you know, I guess because, I don't know if it's because this is my last meeting to chair, or if it was just that it's the holiday spirit, but I could sense that Ms. Harold was concerned about what she had to say, and I gave her extra latitude in speaking. I apologize to Mr. Stemple that I did not afford you the same luxury. As far as the rule with signs, my thinking has always been that as long as someone's not blocking the view of somebody else, that is a freedom of expression. And so I guess we'll just agree to disagree, as we often do, but I take no offense.
I think the reason why I said that, Mr. Chairman, was it's basically, it comes down to respect. And here is a elderly lady raising a grandchild, and you got two grown men sitting on the back row holding up a sign being disrespectful. Yeah. So to me, I'm a man of honor, a man of respect. And when you got someone treating someone like that, we talk about being showing empathy and being respectful in Rockingham County Public Schools. That's just not respectful when you treat a grandmother like that.
It is the Christmas season. I'm not going to argue with you tonight. We will move into action items. We do have reason to, or need to, approve our minutes from November 28th as well as December the 8th. We can take them individually, or we can approve them both simultaneously, whichever the board's pleasure is.
I suggest approve them together.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Falk. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Cross. Any questions or comments regarding the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that is 5-0. Bills and mileage.
You have the bills and mileage for November in your materials, and I recommend approval of those as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I hear a motion in support?
I move that we follow the superintendent's recommendation to approve the November 2022 bills as presented.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Any questions or comments regarding those bills?
I would just like to just continue to ask that as I looked over the bills, just a lot of expensive going towards Amazon. And I know that some of these things that we can't help to buy from there, but if we could do our best to cut back as much, especially in the economy that we're in right now, and try to buy as much as we can locally, that would put back our taxpayer money back into our community. That's would be my suggestion to the superintendent, message going to our employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is 5-0. Field trips, Dr. Scheichel.
You have a number of field trips for your approval tonight. East Rockingham High School Honor Band, January 20th and 21st, 4 students to Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Honor Band also on January 27th through the 29th, 4 students to Shenandoah University in Winchester. And then the theater class, April 6th through the 10th, 10 students to New York City. And then 2 field trips from Turner Ashby, theater class, April 6th through 10th, 10 students to New York City. And the Thespians, January 12th through the 15th, 8 students to Shenandoah University in Winchester. And I recommend approval of those field trips.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. I will move to approve the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Cross. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is 5-0. Policy revisions, Dr. Aldifer.
Chair Breeden, members of the board, Dr. Scheichel. We have before you tonight for action a revised policy provided to us by the VSBA on instructional materials. Specifically, it outlines procedures for working through sexually explicit content. The policy, the revisions or additions to the policy focus on two major areas. One is the elements that should be in an administrative directive created by the superintendent and staff. And then also there are 5 definitions about words in the policy. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I do want to add just a few comments to that since Mr. Cross last time made a comment that he intends to offer an amendment. He and I have spoken since then. I've also gotten detailed counsel from our legal counsel. And when we talked in January about a complaint at one of the schools, I told Mr. Cross, that please tell the parent, go to the school. And so that, in a complaint process, that's not really appropriate to start that process with board members. And again, there are a number of reasons for that. One is that the board ultimately may hear that case. And so, getting involved in the early stages could create problems then with being able to make a judgment at the end. And also, certainly, again, if a complaint is filed that ultimately could result in personnel action, then it's the same issue. There is a distinction between that. So the complaint we had talked about in January and generally having access to curriculum. And Mr. Cross has asked me for a few things over the last few weeks that I gave them when they were available, when we actually had things. And so, again, I want to clarify that because, based on the newspaper article in the DNR following the last meeting, it kind of created an impression the board doesn't have access to curriculum at all. Certainly, that's the board's duty to approve, especially textbooks. And then, of course, there's a policy for supplemental materials that gives that authority to the schools. But again, I want to make that clear from the legal perspective. Certainly, the board has access to curriculum, but when it's a complaint, then that falls into kind of a separate track. And so, in my conversations with Mr. Cross, he felt then that cleared that up for him. Again, I don't know, but based on what you had told me on the phone, I think you said that you were comfortable with the policy then. Certainly, if you still want to offer that amendment, but that would get tricky, again, based on that understanding. And so I think I just wanted to make that clear that we had that conversation and that legal counsel provided a detailed update to me regarding those two different tracks, right? Curriculum in general and the complaint procedure.
I appreciate that. Thank you for getting back to me. And yeah, you did. I did reach out to you and asked for some curriculum that I would like to see, and you were able to provide me with that curriculum, and I appreciate that. So yeah, once we talked about it and we went through it, I feel good about where it's at. Thank you.
Have a recommendation on the policy, sir?
I do recommend approval of the policy. It's important to remember that part of the policy, so once the policy is approved, that we need to then create the administrative directive that outlines the process for that. So the board is required by law to adopt the policy regarding this by January, so we're well within that time frame. And then there will be some explanations in the administrative directive. Again, just to update the board on that, we had some questions from teachers. Well, what does that do to materials that a student may select? Because there's this 30-day window for notifying families. And what the policy outlines there is that if it's an assignment, so if a library book, for example, were to be assigned as part of a classroom assignment, so you need to read this book as part of the assignment, then it would be under this policy. Because in general, again, there's a distinction between library books and what's assigned in the classroom. But if a library book or any other material for that matter, if it's a website is assigned to be used, then it falls under this policy. Certainly when an assignment is given, we don't always know what a student selects on their own. And so if a student writes a paper and then uses material that the teacher may not even know would fall under this policy, or it's simply a student selection to complete an assignment that where the individual resource was not assigned, then it does not fall under this policy. Obviously, if a teacher became aware and knew what the material was, that could be an effort to make the parents aware. But again, that's an important distinction in this policy. It is when the teacher assigns materials to the students that is the 30-day window for notification before you take this vote. But I do recommend approval of the policy as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. Do I hear a motion in support of the superintendent's recommendation?
I move we approve the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Any questions or comments?
I have a question, but it's not about the policy, and it's not for Dr. Aldifer, it's for our tech team. Are we having trouble or is it just me? Okay. And we're okay to proceed. You can. Yeah, I noticed, which explains the way I just made that motion. I apologize. Yeah. So, okay. So it's not just me, but we're okay to continue to move forward with the meeting. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Paper's always good. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is 5-0. Thank you, Dr. Aldifer. We will move into information items. Superintendent search update. Dr. McQuilkin.
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. As you know, Dr. Scheichel earlier in this year indicated that he was going to step down at the end of June 2023 as our superintendent, which meant that the board has a responsibility to select a new superintendent. And we as a board decided that we would like to proceed with a superintendent search firm. We have found that to be successful in the past, and we'd like to continue that. So we have put out what are called RFPs that are known as requests for proposals to so that firms could submit proposals to us. We are now in the stage of looking into a negotiation with a firm, and the announcement will be forthcoming upon the completion of a signed agreement. So we are moving along in this process.
Thank you, ma'am. High school course offerings, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good evening, Chair Breeden, board members, Dr. Scheichel. In your documents, you have a list of proposed high school courses for the 2023-2024 school year. There are a number, 6, of new courses that are proposed, and I want to kind of run down real quick those courses just so you know what we're thinking about offering there. The first one you'll notice is in the social studies curriculum, and it's called Law Studies. This is not necessarily a new course, but the renaming of an old course that we've been teaching called Street Law. And so basically what we're doing is just updating our name to match the VDOE name for codes. There's no cost associated with that. The second one is in mathematics, and it's a data science course. It's an upper level math course that has a prerequisite of Algebra 1. And what that course involves is basically problem solving using data intensive computing. And the course has a curriculum that's been developed by the state, and the state will fund everything for that course with the exception of some PD travel expense for our teachers. That would be about $400, we think. Physical education, there's an addition of Advanced Physical Education 3, which is an upper level physical education course that will allow students to do some extra weight training and actually look into all of the dynamics of weight training from a personal development standpoint rather than just pumping some iron. So I think that'll be good for our upperclassmen. And again, that's a no cost, no extra cost to the division. In business and marketing, we want to offer a real estate course. This is a really unique course in the state because the course is designed for upperclassmen with the intent of preparing them to obtain a real estate license. Now, of course, that can't happen until they're 18 years old, but they'll have everything that they need to be ready to do that. We would like to do that for juniors and seniors to give them time so that if they'd like to do that, they can. But again, no cost.
Will that be offered at school and not MTC?
Right, that'll be offered at school through the business department,
Awesome.
right, business and marketing.
That's a
department.
great idea.
Yeah, so I think it'll be neat. That request came from East Rockingham, and all of the schools were very interested in that. We did a survey, and students, I think we'll have good enrollment. So again, no cost to the division. In the art curriculum, there's a new course, Digital Art, and that course is a course that will allow students to take their artistic ability and actually use computer-aided design to do graphic designing. It's something that's kind of a hot market right now. And so it's just an expansion of our current art program. There is a budget cost that was provided to me of just under $20,000. That would be about $5,000 per school to purchase equipment. But I wanted you to know that there is a cost associated with that one. Mm-hmm. Yes, they met as a group with Becky Ford, and I think they're going to need some training. Some of the old, I shouldn't say old teachers, right? But some of the older school teachers will need a little training. But I think that's it's something they're interested in, and the students are interested in. So I think we can handle that. Theater arts. There was a request for Technical Theater 2 by the schools. And basically what this is the kind of course that teaches students to do the behind the scenes stuff for theater. That would be the set design, that would be the production, the sound, all of that for theater. It'll allow a sequential elective for technical theater. And again, there's no additional new cost for that. So I present this list tonight as an information item, and I would like to have possible approval at the January 9th meeting. So do you have any questions about any of the courses?
Questions?
The real estate course we're going to offer, will that be, that'll get them prepared to go to Richmond and take the test when they're 18?
When they're 18, yeah,
Right.
It will. It'll give them all the background that they need. The cool thing about that course too, it not only investigates all the legal aspects of that, but it also has a homeowner component to it about how to talk to a homeowner about things like inspections and those types of things. So even if a student didn't set for the license, it would still be valuable to them just as a, as a potential homeowner too.
That's great. Right. Great idea.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Board members, you have in your packet of information a financial review for November and an attendance report for November. Now we will move into other business of school board questions. I'll reverse it and start with Mr. Cross.
Thank you. I was looking at the, I had a question about the attendance report.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
We're going to go over.
No, you can go ahead if you want to.
Oh, did you ask me to go first?
Yeah, I was going to on school board questions, so
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. For the attendance report, Dr. Schleicher, could you just kind of go over that a little bit for us, briefly?
And pull it up right now.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize. All right.
Questions about it?
Well, was that just a decrease in the numbers at this for each school district? For each, there it is, popped up there. Is that just a decrease in the last couple of years of students at each school? I think we started out at 3 years and go to
3 years than last year and last month this month.
So those are attendance percentages.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you see is Broadway High School, for example, the 3-year cumulative average when we look at the attendance report was 93.5% attendance. Last year was 90.39. Last month it was 91.16. This month was lower at 89, and the cumulative average for the year is 91.06. So attendance at Broadway is somewhat lower. So more students are missing days than they did when you look at the 3-year average.
But did we feel like we had some flu going around?
Well, so for this month, certainly, there are always, when you look at the current month, that's probably the one that, yes, you immediately see the impact of, for example, all the flu cases, because we're in with pretty significant numbers of students out for the flu. But still, when we look at last year versus the 3-year average or the cumulative average for the year, you still do see that attendance was lower than it was for the 3-year average. So For the school division, of course, you see the same thing. It's 92.55 versus 94.3. So attendance, certainly that percentage is lower. And so again, schools work through that. For the current month, you always immediately see when you have numbers out for the flu. And that certainly, again, I don't know if that's the only explanation, but that's a significant one currently is number of students out with illnesses, whether that's the confirmed flu. I don't have the exact numbers for that.
I'm sorry. How did we do the 3-year cumulative? Like during COVID, it got weird. I remember that. I don't remember how we counted it, but it got weird.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's, these are based on the numbers we get from the schools. So you're talking about 2021, right? So those numbers are not particularly reliable. But still, again, it's good when we compare to last year. So compared to last year, the average at Broadway is higher. The average at East Rock is higher. Spotswood is slightly higher. So for that, again, overall, we're just slightly above it. But then again, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out for the whole year.
Yeah. So the question, I'll hold off on some that I have tonight just to see. I need to talk at the end. But one of the things that we're really concerned about, and I'd like to kind of, as a county, kind of get ahead of the curve on this is in the news this past week. It talked about how there were a lot of city school teachers that came out to the school board meeting and really were crying and begging for help in the classroom and talking about the discipline issues that are happening within the city and everything. And I'd like to ask, and for us to, if we could, Dr. Scheichel and the board would be willing to do this, to send out a climate survey to our teachers and ask them how they feel of where they're at right now. I think it'd be important to hear back from our teachers when it comes to the help that they may feel like they're getting or not getting right now, and if they have issues with discipline in the classroom, any way that we can have any information back as a board would help out a whole lot for us to kind of get ahead of that curve there. So if we could send out a survey to our teachers and get some input back from them, that would be great.
I don't know if, so oftentimes during a superintendent search, surveys are conducted, right? So I'm going to defer to the board on that. I can tell you that when we talk about concerns from teachers in teacher advisory, discipline doesn't come up as often as the lack of available substitutes, right? We face both shortage in the number of people who want to substitute, but also, we're working really hard to increase the days that substitutes already sub for us may be willing to work. With discipline still, you talk to teachers, certainly after the pandemic, the behavior certainly increased across the board, right? You'll see that in every school division. There are a number of things that our schools are working on at the elementary level, whether that's conscious discipline and a number of other efforts. But I will say when it comes to other concerns from teachers, I've not gotten a lot in terms of teacher advisory where people can submit comments anonymously. When it comes to discipline, more so it is teachers losing their planning period to cover for other teachers when it comes to substitutes. And my response to teachers there has been, we're looking at, for example, creating incentives for people who already sub to maybe sub more by having maybe some pay structure that rewards, after certain thresholds are reached, or whether that's a bonus at the end of the year, depending on how many days someone subbed. HR is adding substitutes. You see it in every personnel report. We're also looking at, again, managing that when people who are on the sub list but are never then actually subbing, that creates tremendous work for the principals when they're trying to have someone, at the last minute. And so that's been the bigger concern there, but certainly, student behavior is likely something that you'll also get some feedback on if the board decides to conduct a climate survey as part of the superintendent search. So that's often done, but again, I'm not part of that process for obvious reasons. And so I'll leave that up to the board, of course, to decide whether it's as part of that or whether the board wants to conduct it some other way.
Okay, good.
Boy, that brought up some questions for me. First, can we bring, I know we've talked about it, and it got sidelined during COVID, but the Inspire Awards. Can we revisit bringing back the Inspire Awards?
Yes, that's currently in the works.
Great, thank you. And then where are my high school students? Do we have some high school students in the house tonight? Thank you guys for coming. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you guys for coming and hanging in there with us tonight. This one's been kind of quick, so hopefully we can get you out of here in just a few more minutes. And then also, Dr. Scheichel, you mentioned that you got to watch the Pleasant Valley performance on video. Is there any way you can forward that to the members of the board?
Absolutely.
That would, and any other holiday performances that get recorded, if you could shoot those our way, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Everyone have a great holiday.
Dr. McQuilkin.
Pass.
Thank you. Mr. Falk.
I'd just like to say that, mention to Mr. Fitzgerald that the real estate offering for high school students is absolutely a rich offering, and I'm glad to see it. I know I tried to put my 65-year-old head through the real estate study course that you get, you know, a big book and study and read it online and everything. And I can say that if you're 18 to 20 years old, you're probably a whole lot better to train than a 65-year-old person is, because that's a whole different language. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Dr. Scheichel.
Just one quick comment to Ms. Lohr. And I did hear you about the weather.
Thank you. So we're going to school Friday. You ready?
Yeah, it looks like Friday looks pretty good. Partly cloudy, 47 degrees. The concern, I think, is Thursday morning, freezing rain. So we'll see what that does. Yeah, I just wanted to check with you. So since you said Friday needs to be school, I was just wondering about Thursday.
Thursday, I think we're good on Thursday. Yeah, I'm getting, the high school students are like, yeah, we can stay home on Thursday. That works.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. I certainly would like to wish everyone here a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Just hope that your blessings are rich. And we thank you for being here tonight. I hope that you have a safe trip home tonight, and I hope that the spirit of the season prevails upon everyone as they deal with one another over the course of this holiday season. We do have reason to enter into closed meeting, and I will entertain a motion in that regard.
I move that the board enter a closed meeting to discuss and consider the following pursuant to the provisions of Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, A1, personnel, specific public officers, appointees, or employees for the purpose of considering such individuals' assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation, and A2, one or more particular students specifically related to discipline and requests regarding compulsory school attendance based on religious beliefs that would involve disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record concerning a student.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Okay, all those in favor of entering into closed meeting, pursuant to the code cited so eloquently by Ms. Lohr, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's 5-0. Thank you. We're now in closed session.